Close to home on your television screens on the national side, you may have just recently seen a very familiar face on one of the most popular syndicated shows on planet Earth. Reverend Elizabeth Hurd from West Bloomfield United Methodist Church was recently a contestant on Jeopardy and joins us now right here on the Splash Live to tell us more about her experience. Reverend Hurd, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Happy to have you on. As you had this great experience. You got to go on one of your favorite shows. What was that experience like for you?
It was honestly so surreal. I mean, I've been wanting to be on Jeopardy since I was in high school. And so to go through the entire test process and audition process and finally get that call was just a dream come true. And then to be there, I'm still pinching myself. I'm like, was that real? Did that happen? I mean, it did. It aired. So, but it was fantastic.
Yeah, it may not have been the result you wanted, but it's still the result ultimately you were going for was to get on the show and have that
Mhm.
experience. So, having thought about it for so long, as you mentioned, wanting to be on that show since you were in high school, now getting a chance to do that, did it fulfill all those goals, all that thought you may have thought it was going to be like?
I mean, you're right. It wasn't exactly the result I wanted. I think anybody who goes on the show is like, I want to win the
Of course.
game. You don't go on and think I definitely want to get second place. But my real goal was just to make it to final, not go negative, and get there. And I did that, and I'm proud of it. And second place on Jeopardy is second place
Yeah.
on Jeopardy. How many people can say that they've done even that? But yeah, it really was a dream come true, and was an incredible experience that I just get to say I had for the rest of my life.
I always wonder this when I watch Jeopardy, I think about it. I'm sure many people at home that watched you here in Greater West Bloomfield have the same question. How do you prepare for the breadth of knowledge that you need to compete on a show like that?
Yeah, Jeopardy is such a general knowledge show. Really, your knowledge base has to be about a mile wide and an inch deep. So, a question, like one of the questions I got was about science experiments, and it was an $1,000 question in the first round, and the answer was Louis Pasteur. And that was not something I was 100% sure about, but it was a French scientist in the 1860s. Usually you're going to be talking about Louis Pasteur there. Um, so really, you just have to love learning. You have to have a lot of knowledge about a lot of different things. And I also went on. There's a website that's created by a fan that has archived every single game since the Alex Trebek era started. And I just went and looked at games from 10 years ago up to the present day to just get a sense of what kind of questions do they ask, what usually pops up, how do they phrase the questions. And so there is a little bit of training that goes into it, but there's no great way to prepare. You have no idea what categories you're going to get. You have no idea what you're going to be asked on the show. You just have to kind of trust that you know enough to be there.
Reverend Elizabeth Hurd is with us from West Bloomfield United Methodist Church, and most recently from Jeopardy on national TV all across the U.S., including in your homes right here in Greater West Bloomfield. You mentioned that this was a long process for you. You get on the show, you get to achieve that dream, but then you got to keep it secret because it doesn't air the next day. What was that like for you?
Luckily, I was luckier. My entire taping cohort was luckier than most because we only had 3 weeks between taping and airing. Usually there's a couple of months between there, but we were the first original recipe Jeopardy shows after their tournament break. So it was interesting. Luckily, my parents had been out there with me, so my parents had known how I did. I may have told my brother and a couple of very trusted friends, but I think that was actually kind of really fun. Was the secret of holding in how I had done because a bunch of my friends were like, "Well, did you win? Did you win?" And I'm like, "You have to watch. You
Yeah.
have to watch the show." And that just made for a really excellent surprise when I had my viewing party and my friends were there watching. Would have been more excellent if I had won, but they were still glad to see that I had been out there and done a great job. So
And you got to go do something that you had always thought about
Mhm.
doing. And you thought, and so many people have those thoughts in their head. They have these shows they want to audition for, they want to try out for something like Jeopardy,
Mhm.
and they put it off because life's in the way. I don't know if I'm going to have time. What's your advice to people if they have a show like this that they want to go on, why they should apply?
Just apply. I took the various forms of the Jeopardy online test, from like the teen test, the college tournament test, the regular adult test, and then the anytime test when they started that in 2020. I took that every single year. And so this was like 17 years in the making. I had landed a couple of auditions that didn't work out. And then for whatever reason, this was the year. So just be persistent, just keep trying. You talk about putting something off. I literally the day before I got the notice that I had an audition for Jeopardy, I found out that I had thyroid cancer. And so it was just this very weird thing of like, life is lifing, and yet this dream is still there. And life is going to happen, and if you have something that you want to go for it, just make sure you do, because it will. If it's meant to be, I truly think the opportunity will come to you.
And it gives you a chance to
Mhm.
let people know your story and maybe
Mhm.
perhaps be an inspiration for someone else. It's something you do on a day-to-day basis in your day job here at
Mhm.
United Methodist Church. And I know for other people that may have those stories, that may be able to put themselves out in this way, what experience did you have being able to express yourself through going on a show like this?
Yeah, it was interesting because I was so nervous about like what was I going to look like on Jeopardy. And I think that one thing that I've heard consistently from like my friends and my family that have watched was that like, yeah, that was exactly how we expected you to be. Like I'm a very external processor, so every single time I got a question right, I had a reaction. When I got a question wrong, I had a reaction. I made a little quip about my mom having a pacemaker when I hit a daily double,
Yeah.
and it was just like all my friends have been like, "Yeah, that's who you are," and so it was just a wonderful experience to be on a national stage and be able to fully express, like, I don't know, Jeopardy sometimes is so serious, and I'm not always the most serious of people. And it was fun to just bring a little bit of light and levity and fun to the stage.
It's always a fun time to have that experience and to be able to spread some smiles to people in your
Mhm.
community and far beyond. Reverend Hurd, before I let you go, got to give you the question. They do this sometimes. They like the people that they have on. Their second place people come back again. Would you do Jeopardy?
Absolutely. If Jeopardy called and was like, "We want you in the second chance tournament," which I would be surprised if they called me back. But absolutely, if they called and said, "We want you in the second chance tournament, we want you to come back," I was telling people the problem with Jeopardy is you play until you lose. Um, and then you play and it's like addicting. You're like, I want to go again. How can I go again? So absolutely, if they called, I would go back. But I would also be very surprised if that happened.
Well, you got the community here behind you, rooting for you to get back on that second chance season. We're calling on you, Ken Jennings. Get Elizabeth Hurd back out there. Reverend Hurd, thank you so much for your time today and
Thank you.
congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.